Welcome to Tech It Up with Jessica Lee. I have a special guest here, Yousuf Khan, who's a friend of mine, and he's been a CIO for many years and has advised several startups. Welcome to the show, Yousuf. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. Very
excited to hear more about what you think of the evolution of the CIO role.
Well, the CIO role has definitely evolved over the last few years. I think even more so because there's just so much innovation currently happening, and that they're kind of at the centerpiece to be able to both consume it and then implement it in their companies. And so the roles really evolved from everything from being able to help scale companies to help then innovate and build out new products. But fundamentally, a large part of the CIO role has always been about kind of this operational excellence, and then balancing that with kind of innovation and aiding the company kind of go to the next level.
Yeah, so scalability is something that everybody's looking at in terms of the team, the processes, and the technology in place to enable that scalability. Yeah. What's been your experience? So
I think probably the biggest piece is that there's probably more focus on automating and automation of processes. And that's why there is so much demand for AI and deploying out machine learning technologies within companies, even than it's ever been seen before. It's probably the top level inquiry that's coming into analysts across the board. There's probably much more demand to basically look at the opportunity that AI can basically provide to companies. So definitely a big demand for automation. I think the second piece is about picking the right systems to help scale. I think the emergence of SaaS has really helped CIOs to kind of take in a large part of these services and put them into their companies.
Very quickly.
Very quickly, right? And being able to get people productive. But then the question is, how do you get the best ROI from those products? How do you integrate them and put them together? And then how do you basically make sure that you have a kind of a business architecture that allows businesses to automate and scale, right? And so scaling is not just really about growth. It's about what is the right thing for processes to be automated, and how do you provide a much better experience to your employees as a result of that. So.
And the talent pool is also a challenge, right? So when you scale, you need people, you need talented people. So I think that the recruiting is a big effort.
Yeah, so I think one thing is I've spoken to hundreds of CIOs over the last few years, and talent acquisition continues to be probably the number one issue, at least from a strategic standpoint, that a lot of CIOs are struggling with. And I think this has been an issue for a little while, but it's even more so now. Is about how you're able to basically build out an organization which people are attracted to, that they want to stay in, that they're going to grow and develop, and they're going to learn. And that's really across the entire company.
Yes.
But specifically for CIO organizations, I think they have a great, interesting opportunity to be able to build out innovative platforms, build out innovative projects, and be at the heart of that. And that hopefully is something that people get attracted to and want to be part of. But talent acquisition is one of those issues, and so that's why you have a lot of CIOs who will look at working with SaaS companies and looking at startups. Because they are building products which align with a lot with what CIOs are trying to basically solve for. So do you try and spend time trying to basically hire people to build out something like a big AI platform, machine learning platform? It's probably not going to happen. The likelihood of success of building that out is probably not going. It's very, very low. So instead, you should be talking to companies who've actually built those solutions out, have done it with the talent and kind of the intellectual input to be able to solve the business problem.
Yes.
And partner with them to be able to.
Right. So is that evaluation of buy or build?
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
I mean, you can. CIOs can build a lot of stuff. They're very good builders. Like, let's be clear. But there's just a lot of things that you should buy because you're not buying a product per se. You're buying a platform which is solving a business problem, and most solutions. Like my filtering for a lot of solutions is it solving a business problem?
Right.
And if it's solving a business problem that is inherent in the company that I'm working for, then fundamentally I should be looking at it much more seriously. So.
Okay. I know you hold a monthly CIO dinner gathering.
Sure. Yeah. It's a group therapy dinner.
It's a group therapy.
Yeah, it's a group therapy dinner. Yeah. It's kind of required to basically get people in place.
So I guess I can't really participate at not being a CIO, but would love to hear more about this.
Well now that you're putting me on the spot, we'll make sure that you're a special guest.
Okay,
we'll make that happen. But yes, no. So it started off a few years ago, and I think the CIO community continues to basically grow. I remember speaking to a CIO a couple of years ago, and we mapped out like all of the kind of conferences that we think were important, or the CIO-centric events that we're, for example, a customer of a particular company, and therefore they are having their annual conference, and you should probably turn up to that because they're doing some product releases. So, time is limited, and So yes, I started, a small gathering. It's been going on for a few years, and really the objective there is to. I jokingly call it the group therapy dinner, but really it is an ideas dinner, and it's really about making sure that it's a community. You're building out the CIO community, and so I tend to learn a lot from my peers.
Yes,
and help to basically make some of the decisions. And actually, it's been supremely helpful for me to be able to make some of the decisions that I've made in my career as a result of that. So yeah.
So as a group, and you share your challenges, what would you say are some of the top challenges the group is voicing? So
continually, talent acquisition is there as kind of a top challenge for CIO organizations. Yeah. Number two, looking at operational excellence. There's a big part of the CIO, the IT organization, any company, which has to basically build out just an excellent operational platform for companies to be productive and employees to be productive. And so that seems to be a big focus point. And so automating your processes, looking at machine learning solutions, integrating your existing solutions in place, these are really, really important. I think the third piece is I do see a bigger trend, probably more so, about CIOs focusing towards a better user experience in terms of their solutions. I think we're living in what I term as kind of an experience economy.
Yes.
That customer experiences are not just consumer experiences, they're now enterprise consumer experiences.
That's right.
And that they've become so unforgiving that you actually have to really think about how you deploy a solution out to your to employees in the company, that they have to really like it for them to be engaged.
Right, because the employees are your customers.
Very, very much so.
You're a shared service function.
Yeah. So the customer mindset is definitely very, very much richer in the CIO community than I've seen it before. And I think that's evolved over time. And I think the cybersecurity continues to basically be one of those where the pool of security talent is really, really difficult to tap into. And so being able to build out a security organization and building out kind of a security, not just awareness, but actually talent and enablement of both employees in the company, but within your own team around security as you build out solutions, as you buy solutions, is also critical, basically. So I see that as kind of regular. And I don't think these are challenges as they are opportunities, but it seems to be a relatively continual theme.
You mentioned the second point is operational excellence, and I'm wondering, what are the KPIs? How do you know that you're doing an excellent job?
So I think there's a couple of things. Different CIOs measure it differently, but my viewpoint is kind of threefold. One is you probably have to have a really good user experience. Like you have operational excellence, you can deploy out a solution, but you kind of need to really make sure that people are using a system of engagement. Maybe it's a messaging platform or others where they're used to it. It's easy for them to use. So the user experience needs to be really, really very, very refined, very high fidelity.
So do you have like a rating of 5-star, 4-star, 3-star feedback? Or?
Well, CIOs we tend to hear it pretty quickly. What I will say is that the feedback loop is pretty quick. Basically, it's pretty vocal as well. It's pretty vocal, absolutely,
Okay.
People sort of turn up, and so you'll hear about it pretty.
Okay.
So the experiences. So that's one. I think the second is solving a business problem, right? And so I go back to this phrase. A lot of solutions are maybe incremental in nature, but are you able to truly add value to the company that you're working in and to the team? And by doing that, that in itself should be a big measure. Like being able to measure, have measures which say, we've been able to automate this process and actually be able to articulate that. That's really, really important. So those are the two key things that come into place. I think that the third piece, just about operational excellence, is it part of a bigger picture? Like, do you want to really think about reference point solutions, or do you want to think about building it. So I think there's a viewpoint for a CIO to basically invest in platforms, people who have a longer vision about taking an existing experience and how that could be extended towards the rest of the organization. And so I see that as a key part of operational excellence as well.
Okay. One of the things that I would like to know is, as far as the leadership style, there are different styles of
So I'm a
leadership.
CIO. There's no style. You shouldn't be talking about style.
Well,
I mean, I wear a sweater vest.
You are a leader.
There's no. Okay, thank you very much for that.
You are a leader.
Being
You're a
very
leader.
generous.
Not only inside the company are you leading your team, but I notice you're very active on the outside to talking to customers at events and analyst community. So you are influencing not just your company internal employee. Maybe talk about leadership skills.
So I think one of the things I've been very lucky in so much that I've learned and studied a lot of leadership, both in the public domain and then amongst a lot of CIO peers, right? And so I think one of the things is, and I joke about style, but I do think that there's the biggest serious point towards is you've got to define the type of leader that you are. And that actually defines how you build out your team, how you acquire talent, and how you actually get things done. I mean, it sounds really basic, but getting things done in companies, change management and enablement and actually driving change is actually really difficult. And a large part of that can only really be done by having the right leadership in place that can be able to actually execute this change.
That's right.
And so I think I'm not answering the question directly, and I'm doing that by design because I think leadership style and the style of leader that you are is actually a very personal thing. It actually amplifies kind of how you want to be able to operate, how you're able to get things done. My style has been I'm very detail oriented. I actually care very much about the details, but I have to balance that out by trying to basically be a strategic business partner in a company. I care very much about being able to develop members in a team, in an organization. It's something that I invest a lot of time in. I look at pushing people and tapping into their potential. That's one of the things that I constantly do. I focus very heavily on communication. Yes. I think that's kind of important. It sounds basic. We're still talking about it as 2018, but it's one of the things that actually building out good communication skills and partnership skills is actually really, really important for CIOs, and I think that's part of leadership style.
Would you say sometimes CIOs communicate only when they need to, and that's probably not as effective as if you communicate to build relationship with all department leaders? But
it's really difficult to do, right? And so this is the thing. It's like there's no silver bullet solution to it. There's no tool that can basically solve it. And so everybody has their own style to be able to do it. And it has to be right within the culture and the context of the company. But I do think that being able to sort of communicate out outside of the IT organization, but also in and be consistent about that, and doing that effectively is a challenge.
Okay.
And so, I spend a lot of time trying to figure that piece out for sure.
Okay. The year's closing. Yeah. It's been a wonderful year, but there's a lot of excitement ahead too for you. Yeah. You want to share a little bit about the future next year?
So, no, not really. No. Absolutely, yeah. I can't believe the year's come to an end. To be very candid. So yeah, I think it's. I think 2019 is going to be a very, very exciting year for the CIO community overall. Right. I think there continues to be a tremendous amount of innovation that people tap into. I think the startup community is continuing to be very buoyant, and I think that's exciting for me as an individual to learn and to see what companies are basically innovating around. And I think the third thing is, I do see a continual evolving of the CIO role to just be much more impactful in a lot of these companies. And so, I'm just looking forward to learning more and to collaborating more with a lot of my peers about how they do a good job, because I'm still trying to get to their level basically. So yeah.
Last question. What's with the sweater vest?
Oh, the sweater vest. Yes. I found that it's a very calming influence because a lot of people, they come up to IT teams or CIOs that typically have a problem, and you never know what their kind of frustration level is. But for some reason, I think it just calms people down. So
I think you're right.
I think it gives an impression that this person can probably be helpful because he's wearing a sweater vest, and so. So I tend to basically wear them, and I have been wearing them. And there's a bit more of a personal story behind it, but it's something very special. And so now, actually, some people actually, my nickname centers around that from time to time. I don't know how I got that, but it's a large part of how I roll. So
I should call you Vest then, instead of Yousuf.
I mean, we've known each other for some time. I think Yousuf is great, but it's in your vested interest.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having
Appreciate you being here. I'd love to have you back next year to hear more.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
There you have it. Check it out with Jessica Lee.